Uh, uh, uh. Okay. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode review. Trust me, I know as well as anyone that the dating game is a hard game to play. Everyone has different advice on the best way to talk to somebody that you have a crush on and want a romance. So, how will the Sentinels deal with things when one of them has a crush? Let's find out by taking a look at the 5th episode of TTAF, Perceptions. On Molecula, Gorganis is incredulous that he has not managed to defeat this team of galactic sentinels. Yes, we get ourselves a little bit of world building here, as Gorganis says that he's conquered thousands of worlds and defeated the sentinels of those worlds every single time. This time, he decides to take a polluting tack, summoning Slaygar, a monster with toxic breath that can destroy stuff. At the school, Drew approaches Swinton in the hall, breaking their little thing about not supposed to being able to talk to each other because she needs his help with a test that she just took, apparently. He starts to answer the question that she missed, but then he freezes up. Across the hall, he sees Kathy, a girl that he has a crush on. The girl clearly admires Swinton as well and even approaches to talk to him, but he absolutely freezes up, so she just leaves. Drew asks Swinton what's going on, and learning that Swinton wants to ask the girl out, offers her advice, mainly just to let the dialogue flow. Trust me, Drew, it's not quite that easy. Gordon approaches, and when he finds out what's going on, says that free advice is worth exactly what you paid for it. Nothing. As Lori approaches and wonders if the three of them being together at the school means that Nimbar has summoned them, Gordon offers Swinton his advice for the low, low cost of $50, installments available, balance due when the date is successful. The girls tell Swinton not to do it, but he's so desperate that he agrees, seeming to give Gordon $1 as a down payment. He says his very first piece of advice is to flash the girl your gold credit card and tell her that you can spend up to $500 on your first date. Besides being incredibly shallow, not everyone has a gold credit card, Gordon. Not that that's something I would expect you to understand. Lori says that he should ask her what she likes to do and then ask her to go with him on her favorite, and Drew suggests a poem taped to her locker. The conflicting advice is getting Swinton all confused, so Drew offers to meet with him later at her aunt's pool house. We have only seen one adult associated with that house, and Drew addressed her as Mom. Swinton thanks her and leaves for class. Gordon asks Drew why she's being so nice about this, and Drew admits that she has a sociology paper coming up and thinks that this would be the perfect case study. Gordon invites himself along, not wanting Drew's advice to ruin his potential payment. Lori then also invites herself along, since between Drew's paper and Gordon's payment, nobody really seems to be looking out for Swinton himself. And this is why, at least for a while, Lori was the leader of the Galactic Sentinels. Swinton says that he no longer needs everyone's help. You see, he's found a program with dating advice. Drew tells him to ditch the program. It's not going to be there to help him when he's actually talking to Kathy. Lori wishes there was some way they could just be whispering in his ear when he is actually speaking with her, and he says he can rig up a small microphone and receiver to make that happen. What could possibly go wrong? Well, apparently Slaygar can go wrong as we see him stomping around and demonstrating these monsters' continued hatred of power lines. In the cafe, the mic is set up, the one for the Sentinels hidden by a pile of books and a coffee creamer dispenser, and everything's working fine. Kathy enters the cafe and immediately walks up to Swinton's table. Things start out okay, but as they start giving Swinton conflicting advice, things like compliment her shoes and tell her she's intelligent and liberated, Swinton starts blending the suggestions. Your shoes are intelligent and liberated. Quick and incredibly pointless scene with Gorganis, as he just explains that Slaygar's breath can destroy Earth's atmosphere. something he could have said earlier, and something Nimbar is going to say later. As Swinton and Kathy chat, Gordon tells Drew to go check the garbage disposal in the cafe because there's a stinky, garbagey smell in the air. Drew says the smell is more like smog, and then their tattoos flash. They all get up and leave immediately, not telling Swinton anything because the three of them are dicks. It turns out that Kathy is an environmentalist because, with the theme of this episode, of course she is. When Swinton asked the others for advice on a question Kathy asked him, that was actually about his opinion on something, he realizes that they've left, and then his tattoo starts flashing. He gets up and starts stammering out several statements that are all some weird combination of going to the bathroom, portaling to the battle, and agreeing with her environmental concerns, before saying that he would totally understand if she never wants to talk to him again, and leaving. Swinton catches up with the other Sentinels and thank Nimbar. No, really, thank you, Nimbar. Nobody actually says this time that they know this monster and have seen it before. Nimbar explains about Slaygar and his toxic breath and says the situation is already so bad that the portal network has been impacted. Right now, Nimbar can only send one of the Sentinels into battle. They all volunteer to go, of course, Swinton saying that he's the youngest, the smallest, and he can't get a date. They all reject this, and it's suggested that they just draw straws, and this is something that Nimbar can do. We did not need to see this dude's hands again. Ugh. Of course, Swinton draws the short straw anyway, because it's his focus episode, and Nimbar tells him to remember that Slaygar's only vulnerable point is behind his left ear. Swinton transforms and teleports out. As Swinton left, we saw that he had grabbed the microphone set from the cafe and brought it with him to the cave. Nimbar tries to send Lori to the battle, but the portal network will not stabilize. Gordon sees the microphone set and realizes that they can talk to Apollo, because apparently the receiver that was on him just grew with the rest of his body. And of course, yet again, the Sentinels give him conflicting advice. Nimbar realizes that they're communicating with Apollo and tells them to stop. It's against the rules. It's something about Sentinels not being allowed to get outside help in battle. They have to sense the flow of the fight and make their own decisions. Anyway, that decision then gets taken out of their hands as another breath blast collapses the portal at the battle site, which shakes Nimbar's cave and breaks the microphone. Apollo hears the mic go dead and realizes that he's on his own. He tries fighting normally, but doesn't get very far. But then suddenly he kneels and places his weapon on the ground. The other Sentinels think that he's surrendering, but then he stands up and starts clapping. After that, he sticks his fingers in his mouth, which is actually impossible seeing as he's wearing a mouth plate, and starts whistling. This does something to Slaygar's stomach, making him double over in pain, and then Swinton summons his weapon back and blasts Slaygar in the stomach, which is, of course, the weak point behind his left ear. Maybe Slaygar's ears aren't on his head anyway. Before he's destroyed, Gorganis teleports him back. He laments that Slaygar couldn't even defeat one of the Galactic Sentinels. Lechner says he saved some of Slaygar's slime so they can just toss him, but Gorganis says no, Slaygar can be improved. Swinton returns and the others congratulate him and, "Good Nimbar, this wasn't actually a mistake in the writing. This was part of the plot." Swinton zapped the monster in the head and nothing happened. So he realized that the monster's ears had to be somewhere else on its body. The clapping and whistling was a test to see what body part the monster covered up. The team congratulates Swinton on being so smart and doing things his own way. Swinton then says he forgot all about his date. So did I, because he was never on one. They return to the coffee house and Kathy asks Swinton just where he's been. He says he was taking care of a severe environmental crisis that he can't actually talk about. She straight up tells him to stop trying to impress her and just be himself. He says he's learned recently that that is very good advice and apologizes for all the talk of not owning a Ferrari and poems about motorcycles. Turning some advice Swinton got around, she asks him what he likes, and he says that he really likes computer chess. She likes computer chess too, and they agree to play together by each going to their own houses and connecting their modems. How romantic? A date successfully set, Gordon demands the rest of his payment, holding out what Swinton had paid him so far. However, Swinton says he got the date by not doing what Gordon told him to, and snatches his money back. The others can just laugh as the episode ends. Well, I've got myself a hot date. With these signs I'm about to read, that is. Episode 5, Perceptions. Pros, an Apollo focus episode. The team still isn't close, and a creative end to the fight. Cons, environmentalism for its own sake, conflicting advice is annoying, and Nimbar's weird rule. It's hard to say why, but this episode felt just a little less special than the others. Perceptions gets 3 signs out of 5. So this is something that I hadn't actually mentioned yet, but I was really hoping that we would get to see what we saw in this episode. A Sentinel transforming and fighting alone. You know we all like seeing that Solo Ranger morph, and while Apollo transforming alone was just Apollo transforming alone, it was a nice change of pace to have the fight focus specifically on him, especially as the nerd of the team. So I've commented in a negative sense on how previous episodes have said that the Sentinels aren't supposed to talk to each other in public, and then they just act like normal friends. This episode was a small step back from that, and I was absolutely okay with that. Drew and Gordon's selfish motivations for helping Swinton actually fit with their characters, and gave Lori a chance to shine as the only genuine one. This team may end up all being close friends, but that's something we're going to see build up over time. I was ready to call the crud out of this. You could probably sense it from the way I wrote the episode. It like that time that the Sentinels had to blast the 2 different halves of Nuragula's brain and just generally shot it somewhere in the upper half and then it didn't even work. But for Slaygar's ears not to be on its head, that was just a great, wait, whoa moment. I do kind of wish we had gotten a small little hint line from Apollo, something along the lines of, wait, maybe they aren't. But all in all, I thought that was pretty neat. And hey, Nitron got a day off. I've praised the past couple of episodes for raising kind of sticky issues where there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, or it's just a lot deeper than you would expect. Here, though, it just felt like they were kind of parodying or responding to Power Rangers' early focus on environmentalism. Kathy is a staunch environmentalist, but we don't get anything from that. It's just, here's a polluting monster, so here's an environmentalist. I mean, I'd have already believed that Drew was pretty passionate about the environment. That fits her character. This is a hard con to assign to this episode because I do get that it was part of the story, and there were some times that it was pretty funny, but the Sentinels yelling over each other with their conflicting advice to Swinton/Apollo got old really fast. By the time they were doing it in the cave, I was already ready to yell, "Shut up!" And what the heck was up with Nimbar's rule about not communicating with battling Sentinels? Is that why the Sentinels don't have communicators? I understand letting Apollo do his own thing and focus, but just address it that way. Sentinels, your conflicting advice is confusing the young Apollo. Please cease communicating with him immediately and allow him to focus on the battle. Otherwise, it's just a very weird rule. It means that the Sentinels either have to figure out completely how to defeat a monster on the battlefield, or teleport back to Nimbar to get fresh advice. This wasn't a bad episode. I enjoyed it both for the dating plot and the solo focus on Apollo. Thinking about it, it may have been something of kind of a bottle show, only one actor used on the battle set, not using Nitron, etc. I think I just missed the deeper focus of the past couple of episodes. Heck, this is something I didn't mention, but when they're deciding which of the Sentinels is going to go to the battle, they even reference back to the gender war from the previous episode, like they felt this episode needed more punch and more conflict. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Next time, we get away from these single-word titles, and Drew takes the stage. Let's take a peek at the 6th episode of TTAF, 3 Cheats to the Wind. Dude! Drew works on her essay of Les Miserables. More like Les Boring, am I right? Meanwhile, Emperor Gorganis sends Octodroid to change the Earth's fresh water into salt water. That is going to do it for another Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much, as always, for watching. In the comments below, what did you think about this episode? Was the conflict and human interest in it enough for you, or did you want something a little more dialed up? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure to smack that thumbs up button and let me know that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see all of my videos and ring the bell. Get your notifications set up so you will be notified of whenever I post brand new videos like these Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode reviews. And if you would like to support my channel financially, you can head over to ko-fi.com/OrangeRangerVideos, donate me a coffee set at $3, and I greatly appreciate any support I find there. Until next time, heroes, may the power portals protect you. And he says he can And he says that he can rig up a small microphone and... Things start out very well, but as the Sentinels start giving Gordon... As Swinton and Kathy chat, Gordon tells Drew... He realizes that they've left. Shoot. Going to the bathroom, portaling to the battle, and agreeing with her on the... However, Swinton says that he got the date by doing... Conflicting advice cons environmentalism for its own sake. Conflicting advice is annoying, and Nimbar... You know what? I'm just going to do it again from the top. Perceptions gets 3.5 signs out of 5. Oh, wait. I just realized that I've given basically every episode of this show 3.5. It's not something I mentioned until now, obviously, but that doesn't make any sense. Heck, I'm not even mentioning... Next time we get away from the single word titles and Drew takes the stage, here's a peek at the... Next time we get away from the single word...